the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Had to have growth in that area. But, something you mentioned that I hadn't even thought about it a second ago, you mentioned was Boo Carter at Star. Like, I think they've got a tough decision to make in spring practice because, you can sort of read the tea leaves. And I mean, there's even been some reporting on that, like Boo wants to play some offense, right? That's been out there for a while. How much offense does he play where he's helping the offense, but he's hindering other parts of his game? Like, this was a question Colorado asked with Travis Hunter, and they ended up getting their answer. But, if Boo Carter is one of the best defensive backs in the country, but doesn't play offense, like, isn't that better than if he's pretty good on defense, but also gives you a little something on offense? I mean, it's a tough balancing act. If he can be a dynamic player in the secondary and also give you 3 catches for 60 yards a game, because he can just, that thing that I said a minute ago where you got to throw it to a guy over the middle for a short route and him do something with it. That's probably Boo Carter. That can be. But I just don't know how much you pull away from him on defense to do some things like that on offense.
Well, that's why it's also maybe sneaky important that Jordan Thomas is back. I mean, Jordan Thomas was penciled in to be the starter at Star last year and suffered an injury before the year, and we didn't see him. But he's a good player, and if he's like, that's kind of that depth spot where you're like, okay, yeah, you lose Christian Harrison to the portal, but I think Jordan Thomas is right there. So if you do have to play Boo Carter a little bit more on offense to kind of appease everything, then you have somebody that you can trust who can get some more snaps and kind of relieve him and that kind of thing, that you feel comfortable in that spot. Because I think Jordan Thomas is a pretty good player, and like we said, he was scheduled to start there before the injury last year. So I don't know. I think Boo, I mean, what drove me nuts more about the Boo stuff last year, and I'm not really as worried about offense, but like him not starting on punt returns was ridiculous. Like that was just a ridiculous, what is it, musical chairs where they had Jermod McCoy back there, Squirrel back, and then you put Boo, and he almost breaks one against Georgia. That could have been a huge one. He gets stopped by the punter at the end there. I mean, Boo was electric with the ball in his hands, and we saw at Bradley Central and everything else. Like, Boo should have been the day one starter. Like, you saw what D. Williams did for them. And Boo, like, just let him make mistakes, even if he drops some, whatever. Like, he's a difference maker. Let's not overthink Boo Carter a little bit, especially on special.
Well, let me make a subtle counterpoint. I think at the start of the year, especially with the bad teams they're playing early in the year, I think at the start of the year they thought this is going to be an offense that's going to put up 50 points. So, hey, just put an experienced guy back there who will fair catch it or get 5 yards like Squirrel and won't turn it over or do anything dumb. Just get the ball, and then Nico will come out and throw for 400 yards, and there'll be 50 points. It doesn't matter where the ball is spotted. And I think they didn't know the offense was going to be so stagnant, where when we said, hey, Boo Carter should be returning punts, we were saying that because there were not big plays on offense. Had they had big plays on offense, I think it wouldn't have been as much of a need. The 22 team did not need a dynamic punt returner to put up points.
Yeah.
They just took away from the passing yards that Hendon Hooker had, if you got any. So I do think they made the right decision ultimately, and they should have had Boo Carter there to begin with. But I think they just thought the offense is going to be great. So let's just retain the ball. You don't need a big play. They needed big plays from Boo Carter, and I think they will next year too. They'll need them as much as they did this year.
It's kind of terrifying. I'll also say, Adam, like when you look at it's kind of funny that all of our questions about Tennessee is offense, and you have an offensive-minded coach. Like, defense, I'm not like, we're all like, defense is gonna be fine. Like, I wouldn't panic about the defense. Defense is gonna be fine. Defense is good enough to win a national championship. Like, it's somewhere, it's gonna keep you in that conversation. The offense isn't anywhere close. Like, they were 94th in passing in conference play this year. The games where Dante Thornton did not get open were games that Tennessee lost. Like, whenever Tennessee averaged less than 10 yards per reception, they lost. Every year, every game. So Miles Kitselman, if you see that he is leading Tennessee in yards this year, Tennessee probably lost that game. That was the case at Georgia. Like, we like Miles Kitselman, but the tight end position is not a big part of the passing game of this offense. It never will be. But I look at this and I'm like, part of the issue last year was the Oklahoma game kind of set the stage for where Tennessee was going to be offensively. Because when they had to go to multiple backup tackles and they had to go to 12 personnel to survive on the road, they realized, oh, we're cooked because Nico, a young quarterback, getting blasted. He's taking big shots. We can't like sit back in the pocket and let something develop down the field. Like we're going to have to protect our young quarterback. And we're also just going to have to live with the fact that our defense is really good. We have this Heisman-esque running back. We're going to be able to run the football. We're just going to have to live in 12 personnel with Holden Stays and Miles Kitzman for the year. And you can't do that again. Like this offense can't function with 2 tight end sets and be this electric fun offense. You don't have the guys out wide who are going to get open one-on-one like that. Like it's just that that can't happen again in 2025. Like if they are living in a situation where Lance Hurd does not get a whole lot better than what we saw this past year, and David Sanders is not ready to go as a plug and play right tackle like you brought him in to be, nothing changes, I don't think, next year, because you're going to have to be in 12 personnel all over again, and you're going to have to run the football down teams' throats. And like you said, like the floor is high there. Like it's still an 8-4, 9-3 type year, but the offense isn't better. Like if the tackles are not better, and Lance Hurd's got to get a whole lot better, and David Sanders has a lot of pressure to be a Darnell Wright, Wanya Morris right out of the gate, or nothing else works because Nico's getting crashed and you don't have time for anything to develop down the field. The tempo won't be there because the offensive line's not on the same mindset. Like I think that's an overlooked part. We're looking so much at receiver. I'm like, if the tackles aren't great, none of this matters. Like, cause you're going 12 personnel and we're going slow and we're driving it the same way Tennessee did last year.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Josh Heupel, how he digested their issues on offense throughout the year. And I never was sure like how much of this was actually on camera. Because we would see it sometimes him say things during a presser, but also like right before the presser, right after. He was so frustrated. And I think there was some helplessness that he was having to deal with, because you're right. In the Oklahoma game, I remember in that post game, it was like, hey, we had this, we had this ace in the hole of 12 personnel, and we brought it out for this game. But obviously moving forward, we'll go back to what we do. This was just a 1-game thing, or just as needed. And then it became more and more evident that this is what they were going to have to be. And Josh Heupel increasingly, I think, got frustrated by that. Not that they used extra tight ends, but that they had to. They had no choice. And so that limited them so much. And I got the sense from Josh Heupel, like late in the season, certainly from the Georgia game on, there was this sense of, hey, going to get to the playoff, I think, if you can get there. But like, I think he really looked forward to the off season because he saw problems during the season that were never going to get fixed. And so he was going to have to grind through something he was not enjoying. But now he's got an off season. Now he's got to fix it. I think Lance Hurd showed subtle improvements in the last quarter of the season. I mean, there were reasons that he was not good early on. His new system, you have to be in phenomenal shape to run in this offense because the tempo, when the tempo's going, he was a little out of shape when he got in. He was injured in fall camp, and then he got out and played some, and then he got injured again. There just wasn't time to work on what he needed to work on. So let's say from a 0 to 10, he was a 5 last year. I think he'll be a 7 this year. And you need him to be a 9.
Yeah.
But, I think he'll be solid this year. David Sanders, you mentioned Wanye. I mean, they've had 3 or 4 guys over the years, 5 stars that play immediately, and they start immediately. And if he's not starting game 1, I think he'll be in the rotation, and I think he'll start not long after that. I think tackles will be better this year because your left tackle is going to be improved off of last year, and your right tackle will be better and get significantly better throughout the season. So I think
nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.